All right, hello and welcome to MMT TV, and today we have a very special episode for you because this one was originally meant for the monthly millionairementor.com. But because we're slowing down production on that end, we're actually going to give it to you on mmt.tv on my website. So I'm proud to bring this one to you. This is an episode with Kieron Sweeney. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the psychology of success. Everything in his success he attributes to the mind. Now, some of you know Kieron, some of you may not. Kieron has succeeded in many different ways. He's had a distribution company sending products from Canada to the United States, import-export. He has done different types of products with licensing, network marketing, and he's been a speaker entrepreneur. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about the psychology of success and how to recondition your mind. He's worked himself with Bob Proctor, and that has been one of his teachers from the very beginning. So please enjoy this episode. It's a longer episode than normal, but I promise this one will be worth it. All right, thanks, and please enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Monthly Millionaire Mentor, and I'm Shaun Furman, your host, here with Kieron Sweeney. And Kieron is an author, speaker, entrepreneur who works a lot on the inner game of wealth and success, so mindset. So Kieron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing very well.
Good.
So why don't we start with some background on you as an entrepreneur and a business owner?
All right, great. Well, you know, it's interesting, when did I become an entrepreneur? I think I was an entrepreneur in the womb. And, you know, in other words, I think it's built into my DNA. And when I look back into my background and my history, there's a lot of entrepreneurials in the family. So when I was 11 years old, I kept asking my parents, can I have $1? Can I have 50 cents? And my parents didn't have a lot of money. And the answer was always no, in most cases. And I wanted to make some money. So I went out at the age of 11 and I bought a paper route. I grew up in Toronto, and I bought a paper route with the Toronto Star from another paper boy. And I was making about $12 a week, I think, at that time. And that was a lot of money for me. And I was like, wow, this is great. I'm making $12 a week. Then I thought, how do I make a lot more money than this? So I ended up buying 4 more paper routes. I actually had the biggest paper route in the city of Toronto, and I was making really good money. And then I got all my friends to help me deliver the papers, and I would buy them ice cream at McDonald's. So I learned to leverage at that age too. The interesting thing was, looking back now, I had made my first business acquisition at the age of 11, but I didn't really know what I was doing. So I call it, it's referred to in industry as unconscious competence. You just do it. Now, as I grew up, I also had jobs. I traveled overseas. I worked in South America on doing some mission work, and then I went to university, got a degree in international relations. Then I traveled again with a musical group, got to perform in the Super Bowl, and I just had all these crazy, interesting things going on in my life. And eventually what happened was, what I discovered was, I was always in search of great knowledge and great things and experiences, but what I really wanted was freedom. And at the age of 29, after working in a job for 5 years, I decided I was going to step out into the business world. And I bought the patent to a ski product, and I built that up. I built a distribution system in Canada, United States, and then I sold it, and then I went on and I built a second business where I started exporting products into the United States. The reason I did that, because back then the Canadian dollar was really low against the US dollar. So I was selling Canadian products into the US market, taking the US checks from my customers, cashing them at Canadian banks, and they were growing at like 20–25%. Then by 1998, the dollar dropped so low, I was making 63% just cashing checks. So I started to use that money. We invested in real estate. We invested in other businesses. One of the companies we invested in went public. And I started to build up this portfolio of businesses and investments and real estate, and just started to create a lot of success that way. So now I live in the mountains in British Columbia and in Kelowna. It's beautiful here. It's God's country, and I live a really good life. But what I've been able to do is actually teach a lot of my experiences, and here's what I like to do. In 1991, even though the story I just told you sounded really great and easy, it wasn't. I had a lot of challenges. I had financial challenges. I had business challenges. I really didn't know what I was doing in business. I just kind of stepped into it, green and just kind of learned by doing. But I made a lot of mistakes. But here's what I really learned. In 1991, I hit a recession, and while I was making really good money, it was going out the door just as fast. I had clients that weren't paying me. Their checks were bouncing, and started to see myself get into a lot of trouble. And that's when I started to realize, I got to start working on not just the outer skill sets of success, but on the inner skill sets. And I met Bob Proctor, and I sat down with Bob, and it was the 30 minutes that changed my life. And what Bob started to do is poke some holes in me, and he started to show me where my weaknesses were from a mindset standpoint. I ended up studying with Bob and a few other trainers in the personal growth industry, and within just a few years, I had met a multi-millionaire mentor who coached and mentored me in business. I had changed my mindset towards abundant thinking, success thinking, and only attracting what I want in my life. And all of a sudden, I started to see doors open and opportunities abound started to come to me. So basically, I learned how to attract everything in my life. And here's what I've learned in life. You attract both the good stuff, and you also attract the not so good stuff. And when you really train your mind to only focus on attracting what you want, you're going to start to see a lot more abundance show up in your life. So having mastered mindset principles and taught them in terms of how to increase your wealth, how to have better health, how to have better relationships, I've really been able to just apply them in my life. And now I teach them because I'm helping a lot of people. So I've been training on stages all over the world. I've taught in Asia, North America, in Europe. I've taught over 200,000 entrepreneurs, people like yourself. And now I've got a web show called KieronTV.com. And on KieronTV.com, I give a daily 20 minutes, 25-minute coaching, mainly dealing with mindset principles, and it's going to expand into various areas, but the mindset teaching, Mindset Mastery is our foundation course. From there, I teach about money, I teach about relationships, about life journeys, and how you can create a life of passion, and also going to get into more business skill sets like social media and mobile marketing and things like that. So KieronTV.com is now my online platform, and I can reach a lot more people that way. My goal is to reach millions of people with this production.
Perfect. So now that we have a bit of background on you, let's go back to the mindset part where you were just getting started with Bob Proctor. What were some of those holes that you mentioned that he was poking in you?
Well, the holes are emotional. So everything is emotional. So when you look at the mind is made up of all of these different files in your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind controls everything. The subconscious mind is full of all of these files and all of your behaviors and your habits and everything you do every day, from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep, and even while you're sleeping. All of these mind files are working away doing their thing. And they actually control the behavior of all areas of your life. And everything is emotionalized. So when you talk about thoughts, your thoughts are basically in the memory banks, and those thoughts are also connected to emotions. And it's the emotionalized thoughts that actually determine how you play out anything in your life. And the interesting thing is this happens unconsciously. So you're not even aware of what's happening. So when it comes to money, if you're struggling with money, I can tell you there's a file in your head that needs to be deprogrammed, and we need to reprogram it with a more positive, abundant thinking file. So what Bob taught me was that, I had issues around money. Even though I wanted to make money, it was really more of a fantasy. Because deep down in the subconscious mind, I had these blocks, and I was afraid to pick up a phone and call a client. I was afraid to do what had to be done to go out there. Most people in business do 10% of what they're capable of doing in a day because there's these blocks going on. And most of the entrepreneurs I've been teaching are, they're self-employed, they're independent contractors, they might work with direct selling companies, and I see it all the time. There are many, many major mind blocks. And it takes time to reprogram these files. And, I always say to people, give yourself a good 90 days to clean up the garbage, and then start working and progressing from there. So when you work on your subconscious mind, eventually you're going to change. So let me just show you something, Shaun. I just put something up here quickly for our interview. Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool.
I was just going to ask about this.
So this is what Bob showed me. He drew this, and this is Bob's famous stick man. And if you see, this represents, it's not your head, it's the subconscious mind. So this is the subconscious. So you've got the conscious mind and the subconscious. So in your mind, there's two, it's divided into two, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Now, thoughts are coming in always. These little arrows represent thoughts that are coming in. And you've got positive thoughts and you've got negative thoughts. And there's always positive thoughts in the conscious mind, and there's always negative in the conscious mind. And what happens is we tend to allow these negative thoughts, this red minus here, these negative thoughts take up about 90% of the thoughts in everybody's day. And they sit in the subconscious mind and they form these negative behaviors, these negative habits. And don't tell me you're going to go through your day and not have a negative thought or a doubt, or you're going to say something critical, because we all do it. And we're bombarded with it because of TV and media. And most of these ways of thinking came from when we were growing up, from our parents and from storybooks. Have you ever read a nursery rhyme?
Oh, it's filled with negativity and horrible stories.
So my friend Kim Johnson Cicchetti's just launched a series of books for kids. It's for kids that are under 1 to 3, and these books are meant to be read, and it's about helping program the mind to think in a more prosperous way, in a more positive way. And so she's launching into that area. And actually we're talking about writing a book together and joint venture on a book. But anyway, so what I've got here is in the subconscious mind, I've got all these green pluses. Now, I did this for a recent lesson, but initially you're filled up with a lot of negatives, a lot of the red minus signs here. And that represents having a lot of negative thinking and negative files in the subconscious mind. What I do is I help you reprogram that. We basically decode what's in here, and we recode it, reframe it with positive messages. And you can actually train your mind, you can retrain your mind to have a totally prosperity consciousness thinking by doing this. And it takes about 90 days to do it. And if you do it, you're going to start to attract a lot more stuff in your life. You can learn this stuff in a course, you can learn it in a weekend, but you have to apply it, and you have to do it every day. And if you do it every day, you're going to see amazing results in your life. So that's why I started the web show, so I can coach and guide people through how to do it over a 90-day period. So what I do is I work with various techniques. Do you want to get into those?
Well, really let's get into, before we get into the second part of the episode here, how do you identify these negative files?
There's various processes. First of all, you can use a simple process of just asking questions. Let's take money. So when you were growing up as a child, what kind of messages did you hear about money? So money is...
Money is the root of all evil.
Okay, good.
What do you think I'm made of money?
Excellent.
Money doesn't grow on trees.
Fabulous. Okay, so let's work with those three. Where did they come from, Shaun?
Those three? Well, 2 came from my dad.
Okay.
So what do you think I'm made of money, and money doesn't grow on trees? Those are from my dad, and I would always say it grows in fields because it was actually made of flax until very recently. But the other one, money is the root of all evil, that was kind of in the media, that was in church, that was kind of a cultural undertone.
Exactly. So we get them from, people who influence us growing up. And what happens is, even though you may have dismissed those thoughts, they're running in your subconscious mind. Think of them as a CD or a tape that's running in your mind. And that tape is constantly running. And consciously you're saying, that's a load of rubbish, we know money doesn't grow on trees. But what happens is it's buried in the subconscious mind. And whenever you go through the process of uprooting these, so I've asked you some questions, you've given them to me, those are the predominant negative files that are in your mind. The ones that come up right away, even though you don't believe in them, they're still there. And in most cases, unless you do the work at a deeper level, they're going to stay there. And what happens is every single decision that you're making around money and finances and your income, the belief in the kind of income that you're earning, it's all rooted in these files. And it's such powerful information that, this ought to be taught. We need to really rethink how we're teaching kids growing up. That's why my friend's writing this book, and we're actually talking about starting a whole program just to focus on kids under 5, because if we can get the next generation fixed, we might just make it as a planet society.
So you're saying that you can root these things out by discovering what are the first few things that come up around that topic.
Exactly. Now, and then there's deeper ones that we can get to using various visualization techniques, meditation techniques. Even hypnosis is used for very serious ones. I mean, I actually worked with a hypnotherapist a friend of Bob's, guy by the name of Dr. Lee Poulos. He's in Vancouver, and I mean this guy really woke me up. You know who Lee Poulos is?
I don't know.
He's also the co-founder of the Old Spaghetti Factory.
Really?
Yeah, so it's really cool. So his brother...
Canadian icon?
Yeah, so his brother started the Old Spaghetti Factory, and he got involved to help with... He actually figured out the locations. Dr. Lee Poulos would use his techniques. He's a psychologist. He would use his techniques to locate where these restaurants would go. And the interesting thing was they were always in the most obscure areas of cities. And where he put it in Vancouver and in Toronto, down by East Vancouver and down by the train tracks in Toronto, and I don't know where the Winnipeg one is, but they were always in interesting obscure locations, but they worked. And it was really interesting. So what Lee did is Lee taught me how to get deeper into the subconscious mind and really uproot some of these negative files that were holding me back. And these files are blocks. They're actually blocks, and we have to learn how to unblock them. And in your mind, you have neurological pathways. So if I say to you, Shaun, Shaun, how much money do you want to earn next year? Give me a figure.
$200,000.
$200,000. Why only $200,000, Shaun?
Why only $200,000? $200,000. Yeah, that's a limit.
So right now, yeah, that's where your mind is at. So that's what your mind is saying. That's what you can do. But Shaun, is it possible that you could earn $500,000 next year?
That's absolutely possible.
Okay, then why did you say $200,000?
I said $200,000 because that's where I want to be.
Exactly, but you also said you could go to 500.
Yes.
You see, we know that, but there's a default file in there. The good news is that you've programmed your file to 200,000. The bad news is you can do a lot better. and that's all I'm trying to do is isolate what's happening here. So what we can do, so now it's 200. So what we do is we do the work to ensure that it's not just a fantasy, that we make it a reality. Because to want to make $200,000 next year is a great, it sounds really good. But do you have the programming to actually make it happen?
To have it emotionally ingrained in you.
Exactly. And when you have that, then it starts to happen. And here's the interesting thing. When you start to do the work, bizarre things occur very quickly. All of a sudden a phone call comes, or somebody connects with you on Facebook, or, and all of a sudden you start to notice there's these avenues opening up that people who are going to help you achieve that income level. But we have to be aware of it, because what the mind will do, the mind will start to shut it down again. Oh, can't trust him. Oh, be careful. I mean, it's just the most bizarre things happen, but you have to be awake. You have to be aware of what's happening around you. Like this, let me give you an example. This morning, I'm on my WordPress in the back side, and I've got this little technical thing going on, and I've been looking to find somebody to help me who's on this side of the world, because most of the people I've been working with are on the other side of the world, and there's a 12-hour difference, and it's so hard to get them sometimes. So right there, facing me is this guy named Nando, and he's an expert on WordPress, and it's in the WordPress site. It's his little video on, and boom, I contacted him this morning. He emailed me back. We're going to talk this afternoon so I can get this issue figured out. But see, everything is always in front of you and available. You just have to be awake. And what happens is when we consciously decide that we're going to change our thinking, change our mindset, and we start to work with the subconscious mind, and interesting things start to happen. So I use various technologies, techniques to do this, and I teach them on KieronTV.com.
Perfect. And that's what we'll get into in the next segment. All right, Kieron, so now that we know how to bring these, bring the negative beliefs up, how do you go about reprogramming them?
Awesome. Well, that's the fun part. You see, the first thing is to acknowledge that we have these negative programmings, and just be good with it, and we learn to bring them up, and what you'll learn how to bring them up naturally, because what I teach you to do is, as soon as you have to catch yourself, and it's happening all day long, but as soon as you catch one, you just reframe it right away. So what we do is we do a process of visualization. So what I do is I teach people how to focus on what you want. You've got your inner reality, and you've got your outer reality. So the inner reality is what's happening on the inside of you. The outer reality is all the results in your life. So if you want to know how you're doing in life financially, just look at all the results. And everything on the outer reality is exactly what's a reflection of the inner reality. And the inner reality and the outer reality are connected. So always know that. So what I do is I get you to visualize the outer reality, the desired state that you want to have in your life. So whether that be with money, whether that be a beautiful home, whether that be, I mean, that's how I created my beautiful dream home, is visually. It's a process that started in 1990, and it manifested and came into reality in 1996. So it's really interesting how this happens. So you visualize, but you just don't look at the pictures in your head. You've got to connect with the result of what you want. So let's say you want to have a new house. So the one I have in my house, in my head right now, is a little kind of a Cape Cod beachy cottage thing. It's white. It's sitting on a ocean front, and it's got this old, very natural environment. And what I do is I just visualize myself seeing it on the inside, on the outside, and I get very detailed with the picture of what it looks like. Then I start to use all my senses. So then I will actually go around and touch it. And what does the wood feel like? What does it feel like on the inside? What's the hardwood floor or the cork floor, whatever kind of flooring you're going to have? Is there a carpet runner up the stairs? And just touching the banister and touching the windows. And you just go around and you touch it. So you're using your touch sense to be able to connect with that to which you want. And then I use smells. What are the smells in the air? Is there an ocean breeze smell? You smell the sea? You smell the grasses? What are you smelling in the air? And what's the house smell like when you walk into it? So you go through and you actually use your sense of smell. And then you use taste. So you can actually, you can go up and lick the banister. I don't care what you do. But basically, whatever you can taste. If there's something in the kitchen that you can taste, maybe there's a little pie on the counter, or you want to taste something, find something that you can taste using your taste as well. So by using all of your senses in your visualization, you're actually making it real. Now, what's happening here? You're consciously creating this little movie in your head. Your subconscious mind is recording it. Just like when Dad said money doesn't grow on trees, or what am I, made of money? That's a recording in your head. So now we are re-recording a new picture. We're creating a new story, a new film. And on the screen of your mind, you've now got this new film that you're producing, and your subconscious mind's like, okay, okay. And the more you do this on a repetitive basis, and this is one of the things I've learned is repetition. The more repetition you put towards this, you're going to see it start showing up in your life a lot faster. So frequency is important. So what you do is you keep creating this in your mind, creating your mind, and you just do it over and over again. Now, you only have to do this for like 5 or 10 minutes a day. You don't have to, do it all day long. But one of the things I do is I'll do my visualization and then I'm done. But throughout the day, I'll start going back to it and I'll think about it and I'll play it again. But in a quiet place for 5 or 10 minutes a day, I usually do it when I wake up. Just let that little movie run in your mind. So that's the visualization and incorporating the use of all your senses.
So I have a question about this because visualization is a technique used with high-level athletes.
Yeah.
But what they're conditioned to do when they're thinking about these things, they're visualizing them, are the mechanics and the motions of what they're doing, in addition to winning the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you also visualize your movements, your motions?
Yes. So when I was training to be a speaker, I used a lot of my visualizations, and I would see myself moving across the stage because I was told I was going too fast across the stage. So I'd slow it down and I'd visualize how my hands would be and the way my gestures and things like that. So that's how I used it for speaking. So the answer is yes, incorporate physical movement as well. And the interesting about athletes is when they do that, it's also programming the movement and the muscles to actually follow, to do it exactly the way it needs to be done. And I don't know if you follow hockey, but I've seen a lot of players, they'll sit out in the arena before the game and they'll just actually pretend they're moving the puck around, and they're programming into their mind. So it's all programming. And remember, the subconscious mind is going to believe everything you tell it or show it. So it believes it. And that's the important thing here. And that's why the reprogramming works, is because you just do it over and over, and eventually the subconscious mind is going to believe that it's true. Now, in my courses in Mindset Mastery on KieronTV.com, what I actually get into is the fact that your subconscious mind is actually connected to the greater whole. And I can't really get into that here, but I explain it really well in one of my modules, where if you really believe that you're an energetic being and you're part of a greater whole, you're going to learn that the subconscious mind is just part of a greater whole, and everything you want in your life already exists out there. You just need to start attracting that energy towards you.
To be in alignment with it.
Exactly. So that $200,000, you got to get in alignment with that $200,000, and you have to believe that it's happening. I'm earning $200,000 a year. It's not I want to earn or I intend to earn. No, it's like I am. And you'll just watch what starts to happen in your life.
So you talk a lot about beliefs and changing beliefs. Now, how do you do that? We've talked about visualization. So what's another technique that you would use?
Well, seeding. Seeding is another technique because the belief system think of the belief system as it's the underlying code. It's the underlying code of what's happening in the mind. And if you believe you can make a lot of money, then you will make a lot of money. If you don't believe it on a subconscious level, which most of us don't, we don't believe we can be millionaires. But we want to be on the fantasy level. But on the deep-rooted belief system, is it really there? So the techniques...
The challenge is moving it from fantasy to the belief.
Exactly. And when you really believe it, it'll happen. And your beliefs are everything. So, you might remember that story, the elephant story, where,
where an elephant is chained as a baby, and then as it grows up, it's a string.
Exactly. So that, they use a chain it to a fence or a stick, and then as the elephant grows, they use a lighter and lighter chain until finally they use just a tiny little rope. And there's a story about the circus Barnum and Bailey, where 14 elephants were all tied up in a tent one night, all held to just these little railings by a string, and there was a fire in the tent, and their programming was they can't move. Because as a young elephant, they kept trying to pull away, and they realized that when they feel something around their leg, they're chained to something, they can't move, so they don't bother anymore. So their belief system is, I can't move. Fire, oh well, and of course they perished. But that's how strong your belief system is. So another technique we use, I call it seeding, and what seeding is okay, what do you want to have in your life? You want to make $1 million? Let's start putting that thought in your mind. You want to have a beautiful home? Seed that thought. You want a beautiful, loving relationship? Seed the thought. You've got to plant the seeds of what you want in your mind, because the thought is the seed. The subconscious mind is like the soil, and we're going to nurture it every day with our techniques of visualization and affirmations and declarations and all the things we teach you, and that thought is going to eventually blossom and come into reality.
All right.
And here's the thing, if you don't believe this, everything that's happened in your life up until right this very second is a result of all of your previous thoughts.
You answered the question before I even said it.
There you go.
How can we believe this? But the next question I have in addition to that is, how will you be able to measure the result? Is there a specific time? Is there a specific way to do these things?
The measuring is the results. So as I said earlier, your outer world is, if you want to know what your belief system is around money or relationships or health, look at the results in your life. If you're overweight, tells you everything. If you are in debt and you're broke, tells you everything. If you don't have a very healthy relationship, then everything is a reflection. The outer world, the outer reality is a reflection of the inner reality, and everything that's going on in your life is the result of that. So it reflects. So what's happening is, as you do these techniques, you'll start to see different results in your life. But you have to do them, and I just say to people, like, give yourself a year and just watch what happens in your life. Like, Shaun, you started on this journey of transformation a couple years ago, right?
A year and a half ago with you, actually.
So what's happened in your life since then?
What's happened in my life is I've gone from working a job that I hate to having a job that I really love with a lot of freedom. Okay. I also have this online web show where I'm interviewing millionaires and entrepreneurs and connecting with people that I really want to be around. I went from being unhealthy and not overweight, but just unhealthy, to being fit and eating well. I've gone from having a negative relationship with someone who is unsupportive to having a very positive one with someone who supports me very strongly. And I've also turned my show into a business, and I earn money through my show.
So that's a lot of change in 18 months.
Yeah, when I say it like that, it sounds like a lot. When I'm in the grind, it doesn't seem like a lot.
But a lot's happened. Yes. And everything you've just said is all positive results that have occurred in your life, because you made a conscious decision 18 months ago to make changes in your life. You're not going to live why do you want to live unhappy? Like, why work in a job you hate? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, so many people do it. So, but the thing I like to say to people is, be patient and know that change takes time, and it takes time to change the mindset. And if we just make the decision that 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, this is the life I'm going to be living, and you have to work on the mind to make it happen. And a lot of people don't progress because they don't stay focused on working on their mindset. And that's why people regress. Like one of the things I noticed, Shaun, was in teaching seminars, a lot of people came to the seminars, but then they go back home and they fall back into their old habits eventually, and it's because they don't apply what they learned. And that's the most disappointing thing about the industry. That's one of the reasons I created Kieron TV, is because it gives you that 20 minutes, 25 minutes every day where you can plug in and get I call it nutrition for the mind. And you get that nutrition for the mind, and you apply the principles, and you just do the techniques every day, and you just go about your day and start. You live in a knowing that you're going to have that beautiful home. You live in that knowing that you're going to have that income and that wealth. You live in the knowing that you're going to have that beautiful relationship. And the key is, once you get it, don't let it go. You got to keep working on making that better too. Because the mind is very powerful. It'll trick you, and it'll actually start to, you could have a great relationship, but then you could fall back into that great relationship turning into a not so great relationship. So that's why it's important that both people are working together in this material, so they're both progressing and advancing. So
that's correct. And I fall back all the time, personally, in all of these areas. But it's always the refocusing and getting back into the techniques, getting focused in where do I have to be thinking, and it changes the way I feel inside, and then I start producing results again. So once every couple months, it'll happen in 1 or 2 or 3 of the areas, and then you just go back to fixing them.
Exactly. And I do too. I have to work on it every single day, because the truth is, and you know, this is one of the reasons I follow Bob Proctor, is because when he said that to me, he said, Kieron, I've got to read this every day. He's got a copy of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich that he carries with him. It's almost like a Bible, and he's never let it out of his sight, and he reads it every day. And he says, if I don't read positive material every day or listen to positive material every day, my negative thinking starts to take over. My doubts come up. And you know, every successful person has worries, doubts, fears. You just don't let it stop you. You do the work to overcome it. So I have these negative thoughts. I have these periods where I kind of like fall out of my zone, and we all do. We're all human. But the reason it happens is because this guy is polluted, and we got to fix it. So we got to keep working on the subconscious mind, because those negative files, they're like weeds in a garden, right? So, you know, you got the weeds, you pull the weeds out, but there's always a little bit of a weed left, and if you let it grow, it'll grow. But if you keeping it down, you're gonna. So what we're doing is we're using positive affirmations, positive visualizations, positive seeding techniques, everything positive, positive, positive. And here's the other key thing. You have to consciously decide that you're going to live at a different standard with your money, with your relationships, with your health. You're going to stay at this level. You're going to stay up here, and you're not going to change. And when you hold yourself accountable to that standard, you will not fall out of it. And you will not let other people drag you down. You say to people, this is where I'm going to be. If you want to join me, I'm up here. And you just live to that standard. And you'll eventually, everything will fall into alignment.
All right. So following visualization and seeding, what's another technique that you use and that you train people to use?
Well, affirmations are really powerful. Words are powerful, and how you say them out loud, because you feel the energy, and it's always in the present. I am. Everything is now. See, what happened 5 minutes ago is gone. It doesn't exist anymore, and what's coming doesn't exist either. So everything is right now. So if I'm constantly living in the now, I am a multimillionaire. I am living in a beautiful oceanfront home. I am in the most loving, healthy relationship with the love of my life. I am. Everything is I am. And it's just, I am here. This is it. And that's all I know. Because what happened 5 minutes ago doesn't exist. What's happening in the next 5 minutes hasn't happened yet. I can plan my direction. You know, I use the analogy of a sail ship in my teachings, where, you know, you're the ship, you're the commander, you're the commander of the ship. You're going to determine your destiny, and your thoughts are like the sails. So you've got your your thoughts around health and relationships and money, and those are the sales that are going to take you where you want to go. So using affirmations just affirms, that's why it's an affirmation, it affirms that you're going to actually, this is the life you're living. And again, the subconscious mind doesn't know any better. It'll believe anything you tell it, and you'll manifest that into reality.
So what would you say to, I guess, people like Tony Robbins? Tony Robbins says that affirmations are not the best tools that you can use. What would you say to Tony if he were saying that to you now?
Well, he's saying they're not the best tools to use because they're generally not something that people are accustomed to using, and it's how you use them. So there's been a lot of confusion around affirmations in the industry about people saying, I want to have this or I will have that. It's how you use them. Here's what I suggest. As great as Tony Robbins is as an accomplished speaker and teacher and trainer, we all have to find what works for us. And there's many different techniques out there that you can use. And affirmations absolutely work from my experience. That's all I can teach from. So I believe they work. And if you do them in the present, I am, and you're very clear and specific as to what it is you're creating in the outer reality, it will work.
All right. So in addition to visualizing, seating, and affirmations, what is the next technique that you would use?
Well, anything beyond that is really about looking at who you are as a person. So let's talk about, self-image. Self-image comes from beliefs. And a lot of people, for whatever reason, they don't have a really good inner belief or self-image. We're taught to be judgmental and criticize how we look. We look at all of the, look at the makeup sold out there. Look at everybody's getting Botox and plastic surgery and all this stuff out there, because we've done a great job of telling people they don't look very good, but in fact, most people look good. I mean, how many people have you met in your life? They're absolutely stunningly beautiful and they think they're ugly.
Not many.
Yeah,
none.
But no, but there's people who believe they're not good looking, and they're critical of themselves, and they spend a lot of time trying to look better. Well, if you want to look better, work on the inner self. When you start to work on the inner self, you will actually change. I see this happen in my seminars. Over the course of 3 days, I watch people's faces change. And you can avoid Botox if you just work on feeling better about yourself. If you work on being happy and being excited and just for God's sakes, we're alive. I mean, we have absolutely nothing to be shameful of because we're alive. Because, I don't know if you ever heard me teach this. I used to teach at the beginning of one of my seminars, but, everybody is amazing. Like anything that lives on this planet is amazing. I mean, trees are amazing. The insects are amazing. The entire ecosystem, everything is amazing. And when you really look at it, people look at, they'll look at a big fish or whale and they'll go, wow, that's amazing, right? And then they'll look at, a little bug under a microscope and what it's doing and all the things it's doing. They'll go, wow, that's amazing. And then I saw this little plant the other day called a bubble plant that looks like a bubble. And it's like, I'm looking at it and go, wow, that's amazing, right? And then we look in the mirror and we go, ugh. Is that a pimple on my nose? And it's like, why do we do this to ourselves? Well, the thing is, when you look at the human body and what's going on and the trillions of cells that are being created and dying all the time, and you're constantly, your skin is like, is the largest organ, and it's like the second kidney, and it's just doing so much work to keep you alive and healthy, and everything's working, and we don't know how it's working, but it's working, and it's just functioning, and it's this amazing organism, and we're just like this amazing creature, but we're so hard on ourselves. But the thing is, we have no reason to be hard on ourselves because we are absolutely amazing. Just our very existence and that we're alive is amazing. And here's the thing. You could not have been here, Shaun Furman. There was a very, 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 very good chance that you, this exact being that you are, all of the DNA that makes who you are, there's a slight chance that you could not be here because out of 1 billion sperm cells, you won the race. And you see, out of 1 billion sperm cells, like, you got there first. And you fertilized that egg and you created you. But if the other guy beat you, you wouldn't be this exact person. This radio show may never even exist. Because the programming in that other cell was different. So you have to look back and say, out of 1 billion sperm cells, you won the race. Holy moly, I'm alive. It's a gift.
So let's go back to the self-concept. How do you change the self-concept outside of the 3 techniques that you've already shared?
Well, by using the techniques that I've already taught and I teach on my web show, is you start to use those same techniques to build up the inner you, the better you, the belief that you are an amazing person. And as soon as you start to do this, you'll notice that people will start to interact differently with you because you're changing your energy. And you learn to like yourself, love yourself, and just be happy. You know what the #1 human need is right now? Just
connection, probably.
Happy, to be happy. It's just to be happy. That's all people want. I just want to be happy. You know, we're going through interesting times, and there's a lot of change happening in the world, and it's causing unhappiness. And people, at the end of the day, just want to be happy. But happiness starts with you. You're the only one. No one else is going to make you happy. So you have to consciously decide that you're going to be happy, and you're going to wake up every morning and be happy.
And
try
a higher standard.
Exactly. But try, for the next 30 days, try this. Just get out of bed and say things like, I'm excited, I love myself, and just do it for 30 days. Most people won't do it for 30 days.
Well, most people, the unconscious programming when you wake up is, why do I have to wake up at this time? I hate waking up, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, 20 more minutes, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it's changing the conversation around waking up as well, which changes your entire energy.
Exactly. Because you are energy. And you're just consciously deciding to change that energy. So, I mean, we all have a choice of how we go through our lives. And, you know, when you look at a lot of people who have challenges in their lives, physical challenges, mental challenges, you know, they get to a point in their life where they just decide they're either going to accept who they are and what's happening, and they live like, look at Nick Vujicic, who's got no limbs. I mean, he's got no arms, no legs, and he's one of the happiest guys you'll ever meet. And just got married to a beautiful lady, and guy's got no arms and no legs. But as a human being, he's made a conscious decision that he's just going to be happy, and he's going to go out and teach how he overcame. I mean, every day he's overcoming an obstacle. He's happy though, and he's making money. He's doing really well.
He's
but
living
some
at
of
a higher
us
standard.
Exactly. And some of us have, you know, we've got our arms, we've got full motion, we've got everything going for us, we're smart and everything, but we beat ourselves up and we do things that don't make us happy. So you just got to consciously decide you are going to be happy, and employ techniques that are going to make you happy. What makes you happy? Reading a good book, listening to music, inspirational music. I go onto YouTube every day and watch inspirational videos, and I put them on my website too, so that people can just go there and just, you know, take 10 minutes and enjoy something that's great about life, you know. So it's just because there's so much to be thankful for, so much to be joyful for, and you know, you just gotta embrace it.
Yeah, I remember late last year, I was like, I'm getting exhausted from doing, you know, working all day here and then working all night, and then also trying to balance a relationship and friendships and family stuff. And I said, you know, I want to add music into my life. And as soon as I added my guitars back into my life and writing music again, that's when I noticed this shift, and I just became a happier person. And all of the people around me said, what has changed about you? And I'm like, I don't know. But I started playing music again. So,
well, that's important because music is a healing energy, and it's a love energy, and it creates a harmony in you. So it's good. And you can learn guitar online now.
That's true. So we're getting close to the end here. So I would like for people to leave with an action step here. So out of all that we've talked about today, what is the one thing that people can do today that would put them on the right course for tomorrow and into the future?
www.KieronTV.com, Kieron TV.com. It's $9.97 a month. You know, I made it. I'm doing this so it's accessible and affordable for anybody. So for $10 a month, you can't go wrong. And everyone that joins, no one quits, no one stops, and it's just because the information is so valuable. And you just got to train yourself to do it. So the action step is, if you can give yourself 20 to 30 minutes a day to do what I teach you, you're going to change your life. You're going to have a different life. But I can't, you have to experience it. I can talk about it, I can sell it all day long, but you know, everybody has to experience it and put it into their lives. And you know, everything I'm teaching has been taught by other masters and many other people for years. And you know, a lot of the people I've followed over the years, like Napoleon Hill and Bob Proctor and Lee Poulos and many others, you know, I've learned this material, and you know, but it's only by experiencing the results in my life that I can now teach it from my perspective and how I believe it worked for me. And I've discovered some interesting new things in doing this. And that's the thing, when you delve into a new area and you research it and you spend 20 years doing it, you start to uncover new things and start to develop this whole area into another direction. So you got to figure it out. It's like, you know, I was thinking about you. I mean, you're kind of like a modern day Napoleon Hill, right? Napoleon Hill went out and interviewed 500 people, wrote a book. So
correct. And Doug Vermeeren has even done that. 400 people, 400 plus.
So you're interviewing all these successful people, and we were talking during the break about what do you do with this next? And it's kind of like you're doing pretty much the same thing and just figuring out another way to monetize.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So thanks, Kieron, for being on, and I hope to see you on again.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a nice day.
You too.
All right. I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to like, share, and comment below. Subscribe to this channel for more interviews, and if you want to go further and be live on the interviews, you can go to mmt.tv/live to find out how. Like on Facebook and follow on Twitter to ask your questions, and be sure to get on the mailing list. Go to mmt.tv to get access to all the things that are not contained in these interviews. All the links are mentioned below, and until next time, break the rules, change the game, and be a rock star.